The Merchant Sales Podcast is brought to you by Valor Paytech, the payment technology company that is revolutionizing cash discounting. Valor Paytech is a processor-agnostic solution with all of the omni-channel features you're looking for: standalone terminals, mobile devices, desktop, gateway, e-invoices, all with cash discounting and surcharging in mind. I would encourage you to take a moment to get a free demo of Valor Paytech. Head over to ccsalespro.com/Valor, V-A-L-O-R, ccsalespro.com/Valor, V-A-L-O-R, to get your free demo today and to watch videos and read information about this amazing new processor-agnostic omni-channel technology solution. Wow, Patty, what a fantastic episode we have lined up today. A little longer, but I think it's going to be worth it for our listeners today, don't you?
I really do. I came away from this with so much. I mean, I learned a lot, and that's saying a lot, you know?
Well, we really haven't had this in-depth conversation about retail e-commerce on the podcast as far as, you know, should agents and ISOs actually be selling their retail businesses on e-commerce and even going directly after e-commerce merchants? You know, I was excited because we just really haven't had that conversation yet.
And I was really excited about the concept of going directly to existing e-commerce merchants.
Yes,
you know, because that tells us that, you know, this market is wide open.
Yes, absolutely.
Wide open opportunities.
And then, of course, in the Insider's Report, you talked about how that shift is, if anybody was wondering, the shift is happening to be more e-commerce, more online shopping than in person.
Yeah, and I think our listeners will be astounded by some of the stats we throw out in that segment.
Yeah, definitely. So we talk about hair salons, and then Patty, you gave an example as well, massage therapists. So we talk about these businesses that are small, that are struggling, that might need scheduling software and cash discounting. So we talk about
excellent combination,
those things coming together for them. So great episode. I'm really excited about it. Let's jump into our interview with BigCommerce and North American Bank Card, talking about their new partnership and their relationship to e-commerce merchants and retailers looking to go online.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Patty and I have an exciting interview for you today. We're here with Keith from North American Bank Card and Grace from BigCommerce. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So,
yes, thank you.
Yeah, so this conversation came about. I saw something on LinkedIn about this relationship. I actually know it was an email that I got from North American Bank Card about this new relationship between North American Bank Card and BigCommerce. And I was like, wow, that is so awesome. I'm always excited when I see the payments industry, the ISOs, actually getting together with real technology companies. Like, what a concept, right? So,
oh, wow, what a concept indeed.
Yeah. So Patty and I love when we see that. And so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about e-commerce. For those of you that aren't familiar with BigCommerce, they are a leader in e-commerce technology. And so we're going to talk about that and kind of this marriage of, you know, the features and the benefits and the software that BigCommerce has to offer, and then now being distributed through the North American Bank Card channel, and kind of how that came about and get some info. So before we do any of that, though, Keith, who is a national sales director at North American Bank Card, love to get your background. How did you get into this crazy industry, Keith? Tell us your story.
Well, thank you, James, so much, and Patty, for having both Grace and myself on here. So my story started in the payment space in 2012 officially, but prior to that, I was in the industrial laundry business for 11 and a half years. A buddy of mine, Matt Hoskins, started a ISO and tried to get me into it back in probably 2007, 8, something like that. We even sat down. I remember vividly a conversation at a bar, trying to get me into it, trying to get me to leave what I was doing. And I just couldn't walk away, right? The unknown, it wasn't the time and place. Well, fast forward 2012, I parted ways with where I was currently at, started my own company doing business consulting, walked into my same buddy's office and said, hey, I'm doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, I need you. And so that started my journey into payments officially. So I started with Paytech, which is a ISO underneath of North American Bank Card, in April of 2012. Was with them for quite a few years. April 2018, joined North American Bank Card at the corporate level. They had essentially seen what we'd done at Paytech and said, hey, can you bring some of that into our corporate world of things? So I joined and oversaw a whole different variety of projects and programs, and then kind of finally settled into my sweet spot February-ish of 2019, working with our partner channel exclusively. And so as national sales director, I oversee our entire partner experience. We have a partner council that we built, which has been a huge asset to really bringing the voice of the sales partner to leadership at NAB. I do our enhanced trainings, what I call like our enhanced trainings. Like we have an entire training team that works every single day with their sales partners. I'll work with program development, like with BigCommerce or our Edge program or different things, kind of bringing that into light. I do all of our virtual events. I was doing our sales conference, our road shows before COVID shut all that down. And really essentially, what's unique about my position is two pieces. One, I have absolutely no employees that work for me. So even being at the level that I'm at, I get to wake up every single day and do nothing but focus on how to help our sales partners be more successful. I don't have to spend any time in the HR world. I don't have to do any of that stuff, which is great for me, right? The second thing that's unique about my position is starting as a sales partner in this industry. I still have merchants. I still have a portfolio. So I walk in the shoes of a sales partner, which is really, really unique for somebody in this position at a company like NAB. Instead of just sitting in an office thinking, hey, this is what our partners need, I'm able to actually live it, bring it back and say, this is what our partners need. And so it's been a lot of fun bringing a lot of value and great programs and products to our sales partners.
And Keith, give us a little bit, just a real quick high level view. I know we're going to dig into all the details, but talk about this relationship with BigCommerce. How did that come about, and what was the rationale behind it?
So in February, we were in Boston for the Northeast Acquire Show.
Right.
And I was talking to one of our resource partners, and e-commerce for me had always been something that was kind of like sitting on my radar, but just like most sales partners in our industry, unless you were like in it, like you're not in it. It's like one of those things to where you're either all in, you get it and you're selling it, or you kind of stay away from it because it's a little bit scary. It's a little unknown. It's out of the comfort zone. And that's where I lived, right? I just hadn't spent enough time in it. But I knew there was something needed. And through one of our resource partners, I had a conversation. And I'm like, yeah, you guys directly integrate to BigCommerce, right? And I'd done a little bit of homework at that point in time. He connected me with Grace, and I hadn't really done anything with it. I think at that point we reached out by an email. And then right at the end of February, beginning of March, I was at a buyer show for a buying group that I'm in, right? Booth set up, all that stuff, talking about point of sale, talking about e-commerce. And there's this thing that started like chattering in the background called COVID. And so all of a sudden, I'm having conversations and people are asking about e-commerce solutions. Can you provide e-commerce? Can you provide e-commerce? I'm looking at Shopify. We all know, okay, nobody wins in our space with Shopify, right? It's the big animal, right? And you can't actually build a relationship. So that when I got back, reached out to Grace again. And so right there at the beginning of March is when we started that dialogue, right? Where I wanted to learn more. How can we bring BigCommerce into our partner world? Our partners need to have a solution in the e-commerce space, the same way that we have provided these third-party, what I call our resource partners in like a point of sale space. We needed somebody that could provide assets, tools, training, not just, oh, you can board an account with either USA ePay or authorize.net and plug in.
Right.
It's actually having somebody to help them in that same manner.
Right. So,
great timing, Keith, right? I mean,
yeah, really.
given the surge of activity from face-to-face to online, your timing could not have been better. And especially for our audience. I mean, folks, we've been talking about e-commerce online, and the fact is that a lot of the, like as you said, most people in this space are into pretty much card present, traditional face-to-face. Yeah,
definitely been the focus. So I guess then that brings us to Grace. So Grace is the senior strategic partner, support and things like that, channel partner support there at BigCommerce and getting those relationships going. So Grace, give us a little bit of your background before we dive into BigCommerce. How did you get into this? How did you end up at BigCommerce? Give us a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so I've been at BigCommerce for almost 4 years now. And here at BigCommerce, my primary responsibility is to grow and manage our point of sale portfolio of partnerships. So we run a full partner program across, agency partners, technology partners, but I get to specifically focus on point of sale. So what that basically means is that I'm looking to partner with the best of breed point of sale providers out there, establishing product integrations to allow their merchants to connect to BigCommerce and have an e-commerce platform that they can use. Vend is an example of that. So Vend was the partner that brought us together with NAB. NAB is not quite a point of sale partner, but kind of fits into the realm of,
Right.
payments, point of sale, all of that jazz. So my main focus is bringing all those types of joint solutions to market to both our existing customers as well as new customers. So prior to BigCommerce, I actually was doing a similar gig at another technology company called Xero. It's a cloud-based accounting software
sure.
company.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there I managed the partnerships with BigCommerce and Shopify. So it's come full circle
Sure.
for me.
Huh.
And e-commerce had been taken off, in
Oh,
the
yeah.
last 10 years so fast, and I wanted to be a part of that, growth trajectory and that train. And excited to say that BigCommerce is now a publicly traded company as
Yeah.
of this past August. So being able to be a part of that huge milestone has been an exciting ride.
And actually, that's very interesting. I mean, because there have not been a lot of IPOs since the COVID thing took off.
Yeah.
So that's pretty remarkable there that you were able to do a successful IPO also. So Grace, this is a great segue because I've really been wondering about this myself, in terms of e-commerce. When you look at it today, specifically for small and mid-sized businesses, how would you describe the current state, in terms of, how our audience, the ISOs and the MLSs, why should they be looking at e-commerce right now, and how can that help them?
Yeah. Well, for better or for worse, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated e-commerce growth. As I
Right.
mentioned, it's always been there, and kind of in the background, but it's really forced it to come front and center, whether people like it or not.
Mhm.
So I want to share a stat. According to a recent report released by Adobe, consumers spent over $153 billion online from this past April to May. That's 7% higher than last year's holiday shopping season alone. So I'll let that number sink in a bit.
In
which is
April to May, they
just April to May.
they
That's
spent more than they did the whole holiday season last year.
right. Because
Wow.
if you think back on it, even myself included, everyone was scrambling to buy things online like essentials, toilet papers,
Sure.
hand sanitizer, all of that. So a
Mhm.
lot of interesting
Hmm.
businesses popped up. A lot of our merchants, for example, pivoted their businesses to start selling, masks or repurposing, some of their factory
Sure.
lines. So a lot of people got creative. But when it comes to small businesses or SMBs, it's really forced them to pivot their overall retail strategy to
Right.
online and, focus on building out an omni-channel strategy, probably something that they haven't thought about before. So when I say omni-channel strategy, that's about these merchants meeting their shoppers where,
Sure.
where they are across multiple retail touch points. So, I like to say, like, the great thing about e-commerce is that it allows these merchants to still, uphold the connection with their shoppers at all times, because
Mhm.
they're now able to allow them to shop wherever they are 24/7.
Right.
Keith likes to use the example of shopping from your couch at the comfort of, shopping from your pajamas, watching Grey's
Right.
Anatomy or something. But
Right.
still, like, these merchants can retain that, personal connection. They can bring them back to the store, the physical store, by having, features like buy online, pick up in store. So
Sure.
you're still able to
Yeah.
give your shoppers that immediate gratification of, walking to the store, picking up your item, and going home with that, if
Right.
you don't want to wait for delivery.
That's yeah, that's really cool because I
Yeah.
know exactly. I'm one of those people. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I try to stay home as much as possible, and I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting up in my pajamas shopping at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, especially this past week. Like, oh my gosh,
Uh-huh.
all the sales. It's been overwhelming trying
Yeah.
to keep up with it.
Yeah.
But one last point on that, for your listeners in particular, I'd say, like, the merchants that you currently work with and the ones that you will work with, they're all going to be seeking some type of e-commerce solution,
Right.
regardless of this pandemic going on, because online shopping trends are just continuing to go up year over
Right.
year. More
Mhm.
people are doing it online.
Right.
And a lot of merchants just view getting online as too intimidating of a task or something that's daunting. But, the good thing about all in one platforms like BigCommerce is that we make it pretty easy and straightforward. We give them the resources they need to get started and enable, different connections to payment partners, all that stuff. So we're a very open, partner-friendly platform that enables merchants to succeed.
Yeah, and
Right.
I can speak from personal experience on that too, Grace, because when I was selling full time in the field, selling merchant services, one of my favorite ways to change the conversation from this nickel and dime conversation most agents have today is I would talk to them about going online, and I mean this is an area where businesses are ready to spend money. I mean they're giving away 30% of their revenue to Grubhub,
Right.
just to get online, right? Like, so
Right.
when you
Right.
come to them and they have a retail store and you say, hey, I can actually help you create your online store, that's a game changer, and it just changes that whole dynamic of the conversation. So Keith, let's go back to you for a second. So I'm sure you've already had an avalanche of NAB partners reaching out, right? So I'm curious, how is your partner channel looking at this? Are they looking at it primarily from the viewpoint of like, I have all these existing, physical location merchants, I'm going to help them get online? Or are you hearing more people saying, hey, I want to start going after those e-commerce merchants and getting them to switch from Shopify or whatever to utilize me? Or is it a combination? Like, give us your thoughts on how the partners are kind of looking at this.
So it's a combination of both, and I'll kind of break it down, I guess, in a couple different ways to look at it.
Okay.
Right. So first, let's talk about like your existing portfolio. And just like what Grace has said and what everybody kind of sees, and what we've talked about, e-commerce is growing, period. So if you look at just your existing portfolio, if you're not going back to every single one of those merchants and saying, hey, I can get you online.
Right.
You're opening up the door for them to organically go to Shopify or to go to some other platform, and you stand no chance of gaining that revenue, right? You also, and what's even more importantly, you lose the opportunity of being a person of value to your merchant in there. So that's the other side. If somebody else comes into your merchant and says, hey, I can help you get set up with, and then they also take your processing piece of the business, your face-to-face business.
Right.
Well, man, you've really kind of like dug yourself into a deeper hole.
Right.
So that kind of that allows me to bridge into what the bigger picture, right? So what I have been working with our sales partners and trying to do is move away. And James, you have a lot of content around this stuff and everything too. We've got to move away from being, I provide payments, right? I'm that guy. And it goes back to a question I always ask people, who do you want to be for your merchant?
Right.
If you tell people, oh yeah, Keith, he's that guy that saved me a bunch of money on my credit card processing. Okay. You know what I mean? Whatever. I'd rather be, hey, Keith, he's somebody, my business wouldn't be what it is today if he hadn't walked in my door. If I hadn't partnered with him, I wouldn't be as successful as I am today. So now when you can look at providing with solutions like BigCommerce, and you mentioned Ben and some of these other amazing point of sale systems out there, and you actually walk into a business and can provide what I like to call a commerce platform.
Right.
And then you're in the business, not just providing payments, but providing an entire commerce platform of meeting your customers wherever they're at, whether it's face-to-face coming into the store, or like what Grace said, I'm 11 o'clock at night sitting on my couch watching reruns of Grey's Anatomy on Netflix, and I decide, oh my gosh, I need a new pair of socks. They're going to buy that somewhere.
Right.
Might as well be with you, because if you don't have an online store, that is money you will achieve, right? That is sales you will never get. So when you take that mindset and then you take it into the prospecting world, okay? Now all of a sudden, think about before I walk into a business and they've got a register and a credit card terminal and they're with XYZ company, and their response was, oh, I'm happy. I've been with them for X, or Bobby takes good care of me, whatever, I'm good.
Right.
And you're just talking about one little segment, the payment space. And now all of a sudden you can walk in there and that same store doesn't have a website. Kind of your point, James. Mm-hmm. I can walk in there and I can provide that. I can have a different conversation. I can start sitting and going, great. I know I've been in here before. I've stopped in 3 or 4 times over the last year and a half. Is Bobby still taking good care of you? Yes, Bobby is. Great. Has he offered you this by any chance? No, he hasn't. Okay. Let's not talk about the credit card stuff right now. Maybe I can help you here. What if I can help grow your business an additional 20% by getting you online with BigCommerce? Now, all of a sudden, I've bridged the gap and opened the door in a way where I'm not stepping on Bobby's toes. I'm not offending that merchant and being that annoying sales rep that keeps wanting to save me money on my credit card processing, regardless of how many times I've told him I'm happy with Bobby, but actually somebody who's opening the door with a consultative approach to helping them grow their business.
Right.
Right. So that's the prospecting in the face-to-face world. But also, in my opinion, when you have a product like BigCommerce that you're bringing, it opens the door for online prospecting the same way that back in the day we knock on doors just trying to get the payment processing, right? Start looking up websites. Like you see them hit Instagram all the time. You click on them and go, and they're on Woo, they're on Shopify, they're on this. There's nothing stopping people from prospecting online the same way they would face to face. You get in touch with somebody and go, hey, I was looking at your website. I see you're on Magento 1.0. Have they tried moving you yet? It's retired. Do you have a relationship with anybody that can help you? You're on Shopify. I can do the payments piece for less and the monthly for less, and you have somebody to call. I can help log in and help build your site for you. It brings a relationship into the e-commerce space that previously wasn't there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love it. So, all right, so let's do this. So let's, I think all of our listeners now, if they weren't already on board with this concept, I think they are now, that this is a big opportunity, right? So now what we want to talk about is, let's dig really deep here. So Grace, I'm going to go back to you. So I want to talk about BigCommerce, because our listeners may not know what that is, and they might think it's, authorized.net or something. So let's be really specific. So let's talk about a small retailer. So maybe it's like a hobby store, who knows, something like this. It's a small mom and pop retail type location, clothing, hobby, whatever. They're not currently online at all. Tell us about their pain point and how BigCommerce would work with them to help them kind of, overcome this initial, barriers to entry to get them online.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would treat it as opening up, another physical store when opening up an online store. So it's still quite an investment of time. You've got to be at least somewhat serious about it.
Sure.
But with that, there's difficulties. It can get emotional just trying to plan that out, especially if you're running a business by yourself, and this is your livelihood. So where we step in is we really make it easy for these merchants to have, an all-in-one platform, as I mentioned earlier. What that means is basically you go to, let's say, www.gracesstore.com, or however you want to name it. We power both that front end and the back end platform. So any type of merchant that's looking to sell some type of physical good online, they can do all of that through the BigCommerce platform. So some of the, the key things that they'll have to tackle is getting an inventory check on what they have in stock,
right?
Figuring out like what they want to list online versus what they want to just keep in store, or all of it. And from there, getting some high quality product images is probably something that they've never thought about before, but thinking about how to make their products shine online, from viewing from a web browser or a phone.
Right.
They have to start thinking about things like search engine optimization, some online advertising via maybe Google Shopping, things like that, other social channels like Instagram. So there's a few different things that will be a little bit of a learning curve, but it's the norm now. These are where people are shopping. And then when it comes to the rest of their team, their other employees, it's also a new skill potentially that they'll have to either outsource to someone on their team, or bring in new folks to have that e-commerce strength, if you will. So as I mentioned, it's like taking the pictures of the products online, covering online merchandising basics, like I want to list out clothing, shoes, accessories, and lay them out this way on my storefront, making sure that I have an aesthetically pleasing website. Do I have a theme on my storefront? Do I have a nice banner image set up? Things like that, and fulfilling the actual orders that come in itself. So setting up shipping, tax, buy online, pick up in store.
Right.
So those are more the technical things. When it comes to how our team is set up to support these new merchants that are coming online, we like to say that we have almost a sense of patriotism on our sales team.
Sure.
We have an amazing sales team here in the US, based in Austin, Texas. That is where our company is headquartered. We also have staff spread out across London, Sydney, a number of other places as well. So our team, we are focused on helping these retails, especially through these difficult times where you're always going to talk to someone real. We get on the phone with them, we walk them through any questions that they have regarding the BigCommerce platform. We have a real, customer support team that's staffed 24/7, all based in Austin as well. So at any time they can pick up the phone, ask for help, and that's available to, anyone that's even in a free trial. So we also offer a 15-day free trial, so you can, test around, play around with the platform free of charge. You don't have to enter in any credit card information. And then we also offer a number of promos. We offer store launch packages that provide like one-on-one coaching for merchants that need a little bit of more hand holding. But for the most part, the platform is designed to be used pretty much out of the box.
Yes.
It's picking a theme template, getting your products up there. There's step-by-step tutorials. And then lastly, we have a huge agency network. So gosh, I don't even know what the count is at, but
so it would be like if they
hundreds.
want to get a website created or a landing page done or whatever.
Right. So like if you want custom work, if you want, assistance migrating from a different platform, or, you have more design needs, they are the people that they would turn to, for some additional paid services and support.
And I think, Grace, one of the big takeaways I had from what you just said, and obviously, there's a lot there, right, to unpack. And so a lot of the agents might look at that and say, oh, wait a minute, I knew it was too complicated. No, it's not. And I think one of the key takeaways here is, I like what you said at the begending, that, you look at this as like starting another business almost. And I think it's very important for the salespeople to understand the mindset right now of most retailers. Their mindset, they get it. They understand that this is a big decision, and they know that 5 years from now, they will either make the decision to go online and do it right, or they'll be out of business.
Exactly.
There's nowhere in the middle. So, certainly there are some businesses that have some very specific niche that they fill, but most businesses realize that they've got to do this. And so the beauty of this is, it's like, yes, it is complicated. As you said, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But at the same time, it's an iterative process, right? It's like, get your inventory into the system. Let's take some pictures. Let's get them online. Send your existing customers and let your existing customers know from your Facebook page and email list and everywhere else, they can now buy from you online. Like, there are steps. So, like, it's not like the end of the first week, they've got SEO, it's like,
totally.
Right. It's like, there's this iterative process, that goes into it. So I love it. I think it's super important. So now let's quickly just touch on the e-commerce world. So we talked about a physical business. They want to go online with BigCommerce, which I love BigCommerce, by the way. I'm a big fan. So I've looked into it a lot and I love it. But, how do you enable these e-commerce merchants who, I'm kind of curious here, like, Keith alluded to Magento and a few other things. I mean, what's the current state of the e-commerce merchant? What is their big pain point? If I'm a rep and I want to go out there and cold call websites, as Keith talked about, what am I bringing up? What are their pain points? And then what does BigCommerce do to help them?
Yeah. So, I mean, even if you look back like 5 years ago, the e-commerce industry itself has consolidated quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of different players now, or back then. Now it's really, just a handful. So I'd say, at the small business level, it's Shopify, Squarespace, Weebly. Those are probably the most common ones. More at the mid-market to enterprise, we start to see BigCommerce, Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. But all of these are, kind of just more forging into one, if you will. So with that, a lot of merchants can get overwhelmed, still seeing like there's a lot of different solutions out there. So they might, rush into picking a particular platform, realizing that it's not the best fit for them, not doing the due diligence of understanding what, the platform is good at, if there's extra fees, for example. So one, neat tool that I like to use pretty often just to see, like, even when I'm shopping online, is like to see what type of e-commerce platform is powering their back end. That tool that I like to use is called Built With. So it's a nice little extension you can install in Google Chrome or something, and it shows you all the different applications that particular store or website is using. So that's one little hack you can use.
That's a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, I mean, the biggest things that we hear is that merchants are, paying for too many extra fees. They're getting charged for, payment transactions like Shopify, for example, or they're outgrowing the platform. Maybe their API calls are timing out because of the limitations, things like that. They're not able to customize the platform however they will. So those are probably the most common ones that we hear. So when it comes to things like that, we like to counter that and say, for things like it's too hard to change my platform, or I
Right.
don't have the ability to customize. BigCommerce is a fully open SaaS customizable platform,
Right.
but we still make it easy for merchants to use the platform. So you don't need any coding or development work to use a BigCommerce powered store.
Right.
It is all out of the box. However, if you do want to take it to the next level, you can. So you can customize things, everything from storefront to checkout, payment experience, or you can use, simple tools like our native page builder, which is a drag and drop type tool to, change colors on your storefront, move text here. The other thing I'd say is like, we've seen an influx of a lot of merchants in the B2B space coming online, those with more wholesale customer bases that they have to manage. So where BigCommerce fits in, we have, a whole slew of B2B strong capabilities, like customer groups, letting these merchants control who logs in, who gets to see special pricing, things like that. And then lastly, I'd say just manual intervention. Merchants might be managing too many different systems that aren't talking to one another or are restricted. So with our, extensive ecosystem of partners like Vend, NAB, et cetera, we always strive to have high quality, best in class product integration so that merchants can choose, best of breed partners that they want to plug and play into and ensure that their data is accurate wherever they're logging in from.
Sure.
So those are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, I love it. I think so much of what you said, I think is interesting. One of the things that always strikes me too is your name. I think for some of the partners, they might hear BigCommerce and like, oh, okay, so this is only for big companies. And it's like, the way I look at it is it's more like you're making e-commerce into a big deal. You're allowing even small companies to make it like it's big, And so I love it. I think it's exciting. So Keith, I want to go back to you for a second, and we're going to get a little short on time here, but just briefly tell us about the portfolio implications. Obviously, I would assume attrition is lower. What are you guys seeing on the e-commerce side, and what's the rationale there for the partners to kind of start focusing more on this?
Well, kind of like what we talked about before, right? The portfolio side of things is the upside's huge for most sales partners.
Right.
Like we already kind of mentioned it, right? People, and Patty, you said it too, they weren't comfortable with e-commerce, therefore they didn't sell it. So now it's our job to help those partners or bring partners into our ecosphere, educate them, empower them, encourage them to feel comfortable with e-commerce, and then go and grow their portfolio that way. Right. And so like it's been danced around and talked about all this, like everybody's moving that direction.
Right.
So, I'll challenge a sales partner. If you listen to this podcast and at the end, you for some reason still think that e-commerce isn't something I want to get into and sell, then good luck in this space years down the road. I mean, it's just, it's like anything else, right? It's you're not going to be successful in this business if you can't make e-commerce that's comfortable.
Right.
That also means that if you're not willing to do that, there are going to be people that are going to slice away your current portfolio. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have to do it. You have to make sure that your merchants are on board for that. And, when you can provide this to your merchants, it gives you that value lift. Right. People are always looking for, I have a merchant, even if it's just a credit card terminal and a register, right? And how do I continue to provide value? Like the savvy agents, the savvy sales partners want to stay relevant with their customers. They want to build relationships. So they're always looking for that reason. Why do I contact them? It ain't broke. It's not fixed. They have paper. This is something, this gives you that reason to reach out and contact them and say, hey, I see you're not online yet. I can help you with that. Right. And it provides that immense amount of relevance as well as helping you grow your portfolio. And I'll kind of end this question with this. I teach 3 M's is what I call to existing portfolio management. Okay. Maximize profitability, maximize products, and maximize attention. Right. So when you look at maximizing profitability, I'm not talking about charge as much as you can. I mean, have as much of the business, help them. Like if they have 100% going somewhere, right? Yeah. And not maximize product, maximize value is my second one there. And so those tie in together, right? Sure. You're maximizing value, you're maximizing profits by bringing them these products. Right. And then the maximize attention piece is when you're that person providing that kind of value to merchants, they are going to talk to you, talk to others about you. right? That who do you want to be for your merchants? And when they have an online presence and you're sharing their posts, right? You get on Instagram, you get on LinkedIn, you get on Facebook, and they share a post about a cool pair of jeans, and you share that on theirs, and you're tagging them, and you're helping like drive that interaction, that attention. It's going to come full circle, and they're going to do the same thing. You're going to get attention by driving that attention as well. And so that online presence has to be there to be able to do that.
Yeah. I love it. So talking, kind of keeping this theme going about the partners, Grace, I think I could speak for everybody listening when we say like our biggest fear about e-commerce is not getting people to say yes. Like we're all very good at that. If we weren't, we wouldn't be on sale. So we're very good at getting people to say yes. Businesses want to go online, no doubt about it. I mean, anybody that doubts that, just go ask some business owners. They're all wanting to get online. They're all terrified of Amazon. So there's the need, there's the ability to get them to say yes. What we're all terrified of is, what do we do after they say yes? Now we have to set up this merchant in an e-commerce store, right? So can you talk a little bit, and you've already touched on it, but just give us the short version of like, what does that look like for a retail business? How involved or uninvolved does that sales partner need to be in order to really get this merchant up and running with BigCommerce?
And also, if I can just add to that, what the timing is, because I think that's, a lot of people are afraid it's going to take forever to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Keith, didn't you open up a BigCommerce store in like a weekend or something like that?
Really?
Yeah, I did.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I actually, and I'll plug BigCommerce. So let me jump on as a quote user to answer Grace's thing. So I sell t-shirts for fun. I don't have one handy. They're in the storage room back here, right? Just fun drinking shirts. EnjoyLifeTees.com. Originally built it on Squarespace. We entered into this. I'm like, I can't have it there. I gotta experience this, right? If I'm going to provide it and train it, I want to experience it.
Right.
So I rebuilt the site over the course of probably 6 hours between 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Moved all my product over. It is so much better. I got on with either chat or on the phone with BigCommerce because again, I'm not smart enough to build websites, right? That's not my game.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But BigCommerce's support was absolutely incredible. Every single time I called, super friendly, jumped on, answered questions, and then boom, I'm up and running. They also have an app, which is amazing, that allows me to manage it. So if somebody goes on there and orders a t-shirt, I get a notification to my phone. I can go in there, pull the product, ship it, mark it as shipped, communicate with the people that bought it. I can print packing slips straight from my phone. BigCommerce has made this little fun business of mine so ridiculously easy to manage. And it was really, really easy to build the site. So then, as a sales partner, I'm currently doing that right now for another customer of mine. They gave me their login credentials. Now I have to do the code verification with them, but I actually helped build. I took their template. They sent me pictures. They sent me the about info. I'm bringing that relationship piece of it, and I'm the one in there helping design their site. I'm copying pieces in there. I'm formatting the pictures to be the right size to drop into a carousel. I'm doing the work for them. That's not what they're going to get if they go to a Shopify or something. I'm able to bring that relationship to it.
Sure. And I think a lot of the partners maybe, I really do think a lot of partners would like that. That's how I was. I would have been the same way. I would have done that kind of stuff. And then Grace, talk about those partners who are like, great, Keith, I'm glad you did that. I never will. So, right. So Grace, talk about those partners. How does BigCommerce handle it when you don't have a Keith involved, right?
Yeah, no, Keith is special and goes above and beyond. But no, absolutely. With all the partners that we work with, we do not expect you guys to be experts on BigCommerce, let alone build the sites out for these merchants. We are just looking for you to help identify merchants who might be a good fit, and then we take care of the rest. And merchants who are a good fit is basically anyone that is selling physical goods that is looking to grow and scale their business. So you can be a small mom and pop shop, or you can be a huge enterprise store. The idea is that you're going to grow on this platform and you don't have to switch another time. So when they do get to BigCommerce, there's a few different options. You can refer them directly to our sales team, where we'll do, the one-on-one calls with them, walk through all the questions that they have, kind of guide them through it. Or they can get started with a free trial, which is pretty much self-serve. They see, specific steps in we call it the control panel when you first log into your store. Mm-hmm. So they'll get to see, okay, I need to set up my products, my shipping, my tax, and here's how to do it. And then for those that want to fast track that experience and have someone, one-on-one guide them through it, we have store launch packages that we do sell starting at $500 for one time. That smallest package is about I want to say 7 to 10 hours of one-on-one coaching where someone will actually get on the phone, screen share with you and walk you through, okay, like these are your products. This is exactly how you're going to get them into your store. So it's great for folks who want a little bit more hand holding. And then as Keith mentioned, everyone else can call into our support line as well, or chat in if they have any questions, and we'll do our best to guide them through it.
But just with the hand holding, it would seem it's worth the price, considering
Yeah.
what it would cost you to hire somebody.
You certainly don't need it.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to end with one other thing before I go back to you, Keith, with some contact info and where people can learn more about this. But, I really hope our listeners are, getting the right mindset around how businesses are thinking about this, Grace. It's like, that's my big concern because, I think in our space, especially, and Keith, you see this, partners are constantly given this barrier of like, well, you're only going to save me $20 or $50. And then I want to do, and it's like, it's very small, it's like this very small conversation, and business owners are having this conversation with you about a cost and how they want to reduce it. When we're talking about e-commerce, you'd be amazed how much money these small business owners will suddenly come up with to make investments when it's like, advertising, like I'll give you a great example of this. I was dealing with the guy on credit card processing, and, a client of mine, longtime client, I was saving him, $20 a month or something ridiculous. And, I'm in the conversation, we were talking about advertising. And I said, what advertising do you currently do? Because I was going to help him. We were doing some video production with another business I had. And he said, well, we just have like 4 billboards. And he said, the one we spend about $3,000 a month. The other one we do about $2,000 a month. This one we do $1,000 a month. And this one we do $500. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, wait a second. I thought
you have all that money to spend on
I know. And
billboards?
I was thinking to myself, this poor guy's broke. You know what I mean? Has no money to invest in anything. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. We're just having the wrong conversation. I'm talking about how to reduce a cost. He's looking for an investment. And so that's what e-commerce is. And so BigCommerce is not free. There are fees associated with it. I think they're very reasonable, but there's an investment to be made. Then to, your point earlier, Grace, I mean, there's agency partnerships where, they might need some help converting their Wix or, whatever website or WordPress website over to being able to work with BigCommerce. And so there are going to be some investments. Don't go in there with this pitch of like, we're going to give you the cheapest e-commerce solution ever. No, we're going to actually give you an e-commerce solution that's going to allow you to make money by selling things online, and grow your business. Right. So I think if they approach it from that perspective, I think there's huge opportunity. And then again, your tip about, seeing which platform they're using, doing some research on comparing that to BigCommerce and reaching out to those straight up e-commerce people that already exist is another good opportunity. So I love this conversation. I know we could go on for another hour, but we better not. So Keith, I know all of our listeners are going to want to learn more about this partnership and BigCommerce and what North American Bank Cards are doing with them. We didn't even talk about integrations. I know you guys have done some integrations with your POS. So where can they go to learn more about this relationship?
So with the relationship, we have obviously gonab.com. That is a website that we have that is partner facing. You want to come learn more about it. That's where we want you to start, right? There's phone number, there's links, information. Once you enter our ecosphere, we have an entire training team that will help get you up to speed on BigCommerce. We just did our full launch internally a few weeks ago. Grace and her team and I did a full launch webinar. Awesome. But within that, one of the things that BigCommerce and NAB has done is BigCommerce built a specific page for NAB sales partners. Within that page, there's a link to register merchants for a free trial. It fast tracks them. So when merchants board through that link and they go into their new BigCommerce portal, all the outside payment stuff is taken out of, right? It takes you to a quick link to authorize.net. So imagine, this is one of the big things in the partner world is, like anybody else, when you're dealing with a big platform like this and somebody does it organically, they could see all these other different payment options. Well, through the NAB channel, that's all turned off. They see authorize.net. So it makes it really, really clean for partners to do that. They also have a link within that if they want help, like Grace talked about. We have a sales team that's going to help them close deals. And so they have a link to be able to register their lead with the BigCommerce sales team, stay in touch with that. So we really put in a lot of assets to help partners sell BigCommerce as a platform and a solution to merchants.
Awesome. And Keith,
and again, so that's gonab.com.
I was just about to ask you to give us one more time that website. You read my mind. So Keith, Grace, thank you so much for your time today and your insights. I know our listeners have enjoyed it, and I just really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, this was really awesome, guys. I learned a lot, and I know our listeners will too.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you guys very, very much.
So everybody, today we're going to take our 2 minutes and talk about our sponsor for the podcast, Valor Paytech. If you're not familiar, go to ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR. Schedule your free demo. Patty, you just sent out a press release about some things that they have that I thought was pretty cool. Can you share a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, sure, James. And well, first of all, they'd hired some new people, and we kind of use that as an example, as a lead-in. And one of the things I found really interesting that they were talking about is the concept of merchant setup.
Okay.
When you're setting up a merchant, it can, you got to send a technician out. It probably takes about 30 minutes working on site, right? Now, all of this can be completed online in as little as 6 minutes from anywhere, from virtually anywhere, either using the web or a mobile app. And what makes that even better is, when, especially this time of year, if a merchant's having a problem with their devices or, right? It's like, who wants to call a technician out?
Right.
Again, you can do this online. You can take out your mobile device,
And this is like that remote login capability, right? Where you can remote into the terminal, even as, as long as, depending on the organizational structure, but if you have access, you would be able to remotely go into the terminal, make adjustments, look at errors, things like that, right?
Right. Things like that. And, it's sort of
Really cool.
like what strikes me is it's the whole concept of, slashing the cost to service your accounts, right? If you have to send a technician out, they spend 30 minutes, let's say you're paying them $20 an hour. So that's $10.
Right.
And now, maybe you can get 8 or 10 of those done a day.
Right.
Well, now you can get 8 or 10 done in an hour or two.
Right.
So it really really slashes your cost of, servicing accounts. And I think that's a really important thing these days. To me, that's really jumped out at me about what Valor was talking about.
I love it.
We've talked about all the other stuff in the past, omni-channel, all types of smart POS devices, offering the full digital experience. But I think, ISOs and agents need to really look at the cost of acquisition and cost of service. And this is a really beautiful way to slash that cost.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of agents in the industry that actually do have the expertise. I know when I was selling, I knew my terminals inside and out.
Sure.
And, but it was always frustrating because I was talking to the merchant on the phone and I always knew, this is such a simple problem. I know I'm going to get there. I'm going to walk in and 30 seconds later, it's going to be fixed. I just need to change a setting or something. And, with this, they're able to just remote in, fix the problem remotely, let the merchant know, hey, you're all set. They can even run a test transaction remotely. So it really is a nice setup for those of you that are a little further along. So again, go over to ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR, set up your free demo and ask them to show you the remote login. It's a pretty cool feature. They'll do a demo for you on that as well.
Great.
And now, here is Questions from the Field with James Shepard.
So Patty, today for Questions from the Field, I actually thought I would share a really interesting story that just came about yesterday. So we had some family over yesterday to our house, and we were talking about a small hair salon. And this hair salon happened to be one of the first sales that I ever made personally, 12 years ago.
I think you've talked about this in the past. Is this the
know
hair salon that your wife goes to also?
She used to, so maybe it was. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you. Yeah.
But I don't think that's the one. I think anyway, there's, my wife's got many different hair salons, But anyway, so, long story short though, I sold this business a long time ago. I had really lost track of what happened. As I'm sure all of you realize, I'm not super involved in individual accounts I sold 12 years ago anymore. But, this account, I knew that they had dropped off the radar screen. I had done a buyout and sold the account a long, long time ago when I moved to the technology side. And they had since canceled, and I had heard through the grapevine that they were using Square. And then I find out yesterday that they actually are not accepting cards right now at all.
No, really? In this day and time?
Because it's a small rural area, and they said that their revenue has dropped like 50% because of the restrictions from the state of Pennsylvania, where they're only allowed to have X number of people in there, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And so it was such an interesting, light bulb moment for me about two things. One was online scheduling, and the other is this issue of cash discounting. Mm-hmm. So, along with this story, I actually switched the place I go to get my hair cut. And the
Okay.
reason I switched is very simple. They have the same issues with all of the, COVID stuff. It's, hard to get in, and you have to schedule an appointment, but they don't have online scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm blessed and fortunate that I have an assistant, and I literally had to delegate me getting a haircut and scheduling that to an assistant because it was getting so annoying. And I'm like, you know what? There's a place right down the street from my office. I went there, got a haircut. I liked it. I told my assistant, Angela, I said, Angela, just set me up a haircut every couple weeks, call and set it up for me. I'm tired of this. I'm not going to, I don't have time. And it's just crazy how hard it is there. And I literally switched from one place I've been going for years that actually is still a client of mine. I literally switched from them just because it was so inconvenient for me to schedule an appointment. I'd call and it's like, we can't get you in today. And so, online scheduling, and then this business that stopped, there are some businesses that are literally taking that extreme measure. I think there's quite a few actually that are saying we can't afford to pay credit card processing fees anymore. Right. Well, what a perfect inroad for cash discounting. So I think, hair salons, I think is one of those businesses that is really suffering. If you have hair salons in your portfolio, you need to reach out to them. There's a lot of state restrictions that are hindering them, and you need to talk to them about, now more than ever, scheduling people in is becoming harder because there's restrictions and they can only schedule so many people. This is the time where they need a scheduling software like maybe a Azusa POS, something like that has that online scheduling built in. And then also talk to them about cash discounting. Do they want to turn that on? Are they tired of paying the credit card processing fees? Maybe they're even discouraging people or even not allowing people to use a card. Well, cash discounting is obviously the perfect solution in that scenario.
Well, it's interesting, James, that you bring up this example because I have a massage therapist that I go to, and she has an online scheduling, and it's a real, it half the time it doesn't work, and it's with Square, right?
Yep.
And, one day, a couple of weeks ago, I show up and because I had scheduled online, but she never got it. She wasn't there.
Yep.
It was just such a mess. And so I said to her, I said, listen, are you really happy with Square? And James, I'm not a salesperson, right? And I go, are you really happy with them? Because their rates aren't what they were when you first started, and you have this online scheduling. She's like, no, I'm not, but I don't know what to do. And I said, you know what? I know lots of people in this business.
Right.
I'm going to call a few and see what they can do for you.
Yeah.
And I called, I'll be honest, I called Dee Karawadra, who we've interviewed here.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. Dee, I have this friend, and she, and he says, oh, Patty, I'll give her a call. I'll explain, because I tried to explain cash discounting. She's like, I go, Dee, she needs cash discounting and she needs a scheduling program.
Right.
And, when I went to see her the other day, it was like, oh, thank you so much for sending your friend to me,
Yeah.
And it was like perfect because it's like for him, a massage therapist, it's not a big
deal.
Not
a big account. Right.
It's not a big account, but he can offer her something better than what she was getting from Square.
Right.
For the same or less pricing.
Yep.
And
she's never going to leave.
Right. So, I think things like massage therapists and, physical therapists, all those kind of people.
Yep.
They're having a hard time right now because they have to, used to be you go to your massage therapist and as you were leaving, somebody else was coming in.
Yep.
No, they have to put at least 45 minutes in between each. So they're not getting as many people in.
Yep.
And, there's all these other considerations. So, I think you're right, James. This is probably the best time for those small salon type businesses to be sold on cash discounting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Patty, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, James.
This is the Insider's Report with Patty Murphy.
Well, folks, considering our interview on e-commerce, I thought it was really important to sort of take a fresh look at year-end holiday sales and predictions.
Sure.
I know I did this a couple of weeks ago. I had a few things, but I always like what the NRF comes up with as well as eMarketer. They really take, and so the NRF, the National Retail Federation, is forecasting that holiday sales during November and December are going to increase between 3.6% and 5.2% over 2019.
Okay.
And will total between 755.3 billion to about 767 billion.
And that's total. That's total spend, not just online.
Total spend,
okay.
right?
All right.
Okay. So then I wanted, and of course those numbers exclude automotive and gas sales and things like that, of course. Online sales, according to NRF, will increase between 20% and 30% over 2019. Can you
That's
imagine?
insane.
I've never, in all my time, I've never heard sales increasing that much in one year.
And of course, if you do that math in your head, I mean, that obviously means that in-person sales during the holiday season are going to decline by at least 15%.
Exactly. And that's the point I wanted to bring up,
Yeah.
because we're talking, 202 to 219 billion of
Yep.
that 755 is just going to be online sales.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
I was just reading in Forbes this morning, I jotted down a few numbers that they had. And they're talking about, for example, Deloitte is expecting holiday sales on the, only go up about 1.5% to 2%. But, that's the total, right? You
Yeah.
go back to, the online sales, e-marketers saying 35% increase.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
again, I mean, we cannot emphasize this any more than we already have, but I will try that if you're not selling your merchants on an e-commerce solution,
Right.
you're going to be irrelevant in a couple of years.
Yeah. It's the truth. And I think it's important for people to understand when we talk about a 15% drop in in-person sales year over year, that also means probably about a 15% drop in residual income from
Exactly.
the same merchant year over year during the holiday season. So
Yeah.
we're used to getting, I know for me, when I was selling, 10 years ago, December was like double residual, almost.
Right.
It was crazy.
Sure.
And, that was awesome. But now as we look at it, that increase is going to go down and down and down unless you're helping your merchants go online. Then you're going to be seeing that big shift in volume from in-person to online. But you whether you're using BigCommerce or somebody else, I mean, you have to be ready to make these shifts. And I think it's exciting what companies like North American Bankcard are doing, where they're actually integrating the inventory piece, right? But ultimately, that really is the only difference there. As far BigCommerce works with Authorize.net, as Keith said, which is something a lot of agents can do, and ISOs can do that. And then there's just the integration with the point of sale solution. So, yeah, really really interesting stuff there, Patty.
Yeah, I thought so. And, and the other thing, just as an aside, James, I thought I would mention, and it is true, the in-person sales, especially with restaurants, are going to really suffer this year, vis-a-vis last year. And it would strike me, and I've seen stats about how, what do you call them, gift cards sales are going up. And I think that that's a really important thing. If you have restaurants in your portfolio and they're not selling gift cards, yeah,
That's
something you
huge,
should be doing.
another huge one. And the thing, honestly, Patty, the thing that strikes me the most about the numbers you just shared is it's actually not the online versus in person, because I kind of already figured, it was.
Sure, we all
right?
kind of figured that, right?
The thing that really stands out to me is that overall spend is going to increase at a fairly significant, 3.5%.
Right.
I think maybe people underestimate the amount of opportunity that exists right now in the market. I think especially in our industries, I talk to salespeople and ISOs, there is kind of almost this depressed, you get this feeling like, oh, once 2020 is over, we can start, making some money. Well, wait a second. I mean, the overall economy, people are going to spend more this year than they did last year. So it's not that, and not only that, they're going to spend it disproportionately in a different way. Right. So if you're looking for opportunity, wouldn't you want to be in a country and in a marketplace where more money is going to be spent, and it's going to be spent in a disproportionately different way?
Right.
That's like the definition of opportunity. The difference is if you want to get the opportunity, you have to make the change to get it. You can't sell the same old thing. And, if you're just looking at it as just the only option you have is selling face-to-face, in-person, credit card processing, standalone terminals, that actually is decreasing. And guess what? Bad news. COVID, it was already decreasing long before that.
Long before COVID.
COVID has certainly sped things up a bit, but that was already declining. It's going to continue declining until it drops off the face of the earth. So, at what point are you going to say, hey, I think it's time for me to transition my business and make that pivot, like Grace was talking about in the interview, to really look at the market as it exists today, not how you wish it existed still.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we have a lot of people that have been in this business for a really long time, and they were like, hey, it's been really great. And, and they see the residuals and they go, oh, woe is me.
Right.
And it's like, no,
Go build a new portfolio.
Yes, right. Exactly. Just reinvent yourself. I mean, my way of thinking, anybody who's in business for themselves has to constantly reinvent themselves
for sure,
to stay relevant. And that's all we're talking about,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Great.
Good stuff, Patty. This episode of the Merchant Sales Podcast was brought to you by Valor Paytech, the technology company that is revolutionizing cash discounting and surcharging with innovative features like dual mid support, waive the fee options, and even adding non-cash adjustment charges to tips. Now, all of this is made possible by a variety of technology devices and solutions such as gateways, tabletop point of sale devices, and features like SMS text messaging and e-invoicing, all with cash discounting in mind. Valor Paytech, bold ideas, smart execution. Make sure you head over to ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR, ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR. Schedule your free demo today and watch videos and learn more about this amazing technology solution.
Thank you for listening to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Whether you are an industry veteran, processing executive, or just trying to learn about the payment space, we appreciate your time. The Merchant Sales Podcast is a joint production of greensheet.com and ccsalespro.com, and we hope you will tune in next week for more information and tips on building your merchant services business.